2008, Hillary Clinton was confirmed the next day. After his inauguration, she was confirmed the next day. They confirmed, I think it was 8 the next day as well. Eric Holder, who was a controversial pick for Attorney General, was confirmed a week after. So Republicans realized that we need continuity of government. We need government to operate, and we need the President of the United States to have all of the assistance that he needs to govern effectively. And so Republicans put aside their differences. They said, we're going to oppose his agenda, but we're not going to undermine the continuity of government. And so that's a stark difference between how Republicans handled Obama and how Democrats are handling Trump. Now, the next thing they'll say is, oh, well, what about Merrick Garland? Well, historically speaking, it's not uncommon for one party to oppose the confirmation of another party's nominees later in a president's tenure in the White House. This isn't uncommon. This is what happens. It's okay to bring into question one of the president's nominees, but to bring into question all of them, it means that government just will not be able to function. Here, guys, I'm going to show you something. That big building right there, that big tall one with the spire at the top, that is the home of the New York Times. And we're gunning for them. We're coming for them fast. They have this big monolithic building, and they can't even fill it with people. They're having to consolidate into just a couple of floors because the economics of, the old struggling newspaper industry just... So the gray old lady, her days are numbered. Anyway, getting back to this confirmation thing, I've never seen anything like it before. It sets a horrible precedent. The fact that Democrats are saying that they won't let him fill his cabinet vacancies, they won't let him fill the Supreme Court potentially for 8 years if he were to be reelected, it's calamity. It's not hyperbole for me to say that. It's the truth. It's the truth. So the next thing that I wanted to make sure that we covered is the big story has been that the mainstream media has been pushing the idea that Donald Trump is backtracking on the Mexican wall, that he's no longer going to pay for it. Now, this couldn't be further from the truth. What they're saying is that, he said that we're going to make Mexico pay for it, and then now he's saying that it has to go through congressional appropriations. Of course it does. Of course it does. What Trump is saying is that we're going to build the wall, we're going to pay for it, and then we're going to, through tariffs and other policy, we're going to recoup the money from Mexico. They're going to pay for it on the back end. Okay? So that's how it's going to work. Nothing's changed. Donald Trump's been very consistent on this. Don't buy this mainstream media nonsense. It's actually, no, it's not nonsense. It's a bold-faced lie. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You'd think at some point I would just come to expect this, but I think they just keep pushing the envelope further and further. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about, this news came out yesterday, but I think it came out after Scarlett, I can't remember, I think it came out after Scarlett had her walk and talk, which is that the FBI acknowledged that they never even reviewed the server that was hacked at the DNC. They never even reviewed the most critical piece of evidence they could have considered to determine whether the Russians were involved or whoever was involved in the hacking. And the FBI is probably the Federal Bureau of Investigations is the ultimate arbiter of this investigation. They should have absolutely seen it. They based their ruling, which is that the Russians were involved, on a report generated by a firm called CrowdStrike. Now, why is this important? CrowdStrike was hired by the DNC. They were paid by the DNC to do a security analysis. Obviously, they haven't done such a great job, but because they've been hacked. So I think CrowdStrike has every incentive, because they're paid by the DNC, to I don't know whether they're forging the document or whether they're just coming up. They're giving the DNC the answer that they want. But the bottom line is this: I don't trust anything they say. If the Federal Bureau of Investigations did not conduct their own independent study, their own independent investigation, I'm not going to believe it. Especially considering we haven't seen a shred of evidence to substantiate this. A shred. And if our government's basing this would be like, if somebody was accused of killing somebody and the FBI concluded on the case based on an investigation paid for by the murderer. You know, it just wouldn't happen. It's just so outrageous that nobody would even believe. Nobody would have the guts to stand up and say that. Look here, big trucks. Big trucks. Reminds me of The Sopranos, if you guys ever watched that, the waste management. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to cover is Obama's building his own wall. This really got me. And I don't blame him. You know, he needs to be concerned with his own security. But for those of you that don't know, after he leaves the White House, he is going to live in Washington. And so he's rented a big fancy house there. And right now, as we speak, I think using federal dollars, they're building a wall around this big fortification around this house that Obama will be living in. And I just wanted to pinpoint that because I don't blame him for wanting to, you know, have a secure home. I think we all want that, especially for him. I mean, he's somebody that's in the public eye and is vulnerable. But God, the irony. You know, he wouldn't want to build a wall around the United States to make sure that we know who's here, who's coming, and but he'll want to build one around his own house for his own security. You know, I don't understand that, but I just wanted to point out that bit of hypocrisy. The next thing that I wanted to get to, I know we're covering a lot, but it's because there was so much in the news, was Donald Trump's tweets. We got to talk about this. DML put up a really good, I think really intelligent, heartfelt op-ed on this. And he wrote it from the perspective of somebody that, well, from our perspective, you and me, somebody that supported Donald Trump, somebody that, you know, has taken flack from friends and family for supporting him. And he's saying that, you know, Donald, we're with you, but you've got to stop with some of these tweets. And the example that he used is one of the latest tweets from Arnold, where he said that, where Donald was attacking Arnold Schwarzenegger because Arnold didn't support him in the Republican primary or the general election, and was attacking The Apprentice. So Arnold Schwarzenegger took over The Apprentice, and apparently the ratings haven't been great, and so Donald Trump is taking a swing at Arnold for it. And, you know, that's fine, whatever, if you're not the President of the United States, but you're the President of the United States. And I agree with DML. Pick your battles, and you like, there are going to be so many of them in the coming years, so many, and they're going, and all we do by exposing ourselves to every single attack, taking the bait on every single instance, is we expose ourselves to the mainstream media's nonstop onslaught. Now, in some ways, this is a good thing because it continues to distract the mainstream media because they can't stand not to cover. They have to cover every single tweet, and I think Donald knows that, and it keeps him in the news. He drives the narrative. But you know what? You know, there are real Americans suffering every day, and it's time for us to start focusing on those. I want him to hold a light to those problems. I want him to start focusing on policy. Don't talk about The Apprentice. You know, we've been there. We've done that. And if you are, do it respectfully. You know, I mean, you're the President of the United States. You sit in the Oval Office. Just how I didn't really like that, you know, Barack Obama, you know, didn't wear a jacket in the Oval Office, puts his feet on the desk. I felt like that disrespected the office. In some ways, I worry that some of these tweets could do the same. And this is coming from somebody that almost unconditionally supports him. I've been with him the whole way, and throughout you know, all the ups and downs. And I've taken a lot of flack for it. But so this is coming from a place of, you know, love and admiration. I'm not trying to attack him. A couple of housekeeping things that I wanted to make sure that we cover is that the app is indispensable. I'm using the app every day on my Android phone right here. Got two of them. And this thing's indispensable. Every time there's a breaking news event, when Dml writes an op-ed, when we have one of these walk and talks, and pretty soon when we're doing other shows, that's where you need to go and get it. It'll be on the iOS App Store soon. It's going through the approval process. That is, I think, increasingly going to be one of the most important ways you interface with DML and the rest of us that are building this. So if you don't have it yet, go get it. If you have iOS, make sure you know, you stay tuned because that'll be out soon. And then the next thing is, I wanted to thank you guys for how unbelievably nice you've been the last 3 times I've done this walk and talk. It's not easy. I don't know how DML does it every day. Holding the phone up like this really steady, it's difficult. and you know, walking and talking isn't as easy as they say it is. But you guys have been unbelievably nice, unbelievably supportive. You guys are the best fans. DML's fans are the best people that I've engaged with since I started doing media. Seriously. So wanted to thank you guys for all of your support. And before I leave, one view of the New York Times here. We are looking at office and studio space nearby here, and just wanted to remind them, if they're watching, we're coming for you. So anyway, I gotta run because I want to go look at this space, and I've got an appointment right now. So I'm sorry I have to cut it short, but I really appreciate it once again. And